Hey, good morning. Welcome to Talking Niagara. Morning, Dave. Morning, Rick. Um, uh, yeah. Well, anyway.
Well, I just like to at this point. I just like to give you about a year ago. I did the same thing. I says I gave you a lecture about your tardiness. Come on now, this is a professional outfit. You have to be on time there, Peter. Come on at 7:05 before you came online. This is not good.
Morning,
It's my
Mike.
job to be the late one, not yours.
Morning. Yeah. Well, I popped out because you weren't here. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I listened to that whole conversation.
All right. So here you go. Thorold notifying residents affected by June's cyber attack. Now, this is something that this is quite serious for organizations like cities, that they need to actually make sure that they, we talk about making sure that they spend the money correctly. But here's a point whereby making sure they spend the money correctly, the right amount of money, put the right security system in place, particularly since a lot of records are now more available online. The security is even more important than it has ever been. And when it's our data when it's resident data that has the potential to be stolen, and that's problematic. And they unfortunately, I think that they have to be upfront about it, and they have to be very clear about what they're going to do to fix the problem.
Yeah. So essentially, Thorold has had a cyber attack. Now we don't know if they're being blackmailed.
Yeah.
As our listeners might remember, it was a thing where hackers could get into systems like they did with Giant Tiger, other big stores, and even banks, and then for a fee they would turn that information back. So it was kind of blackmailing them. You can have the information back for $6 million, $200,000, depending on who they hacked and where. It doesn't say that in the article, does it?
No, it doesn't. But again, cyber attacks against municipalities have been increasingly common across Canada in recent years, with hackers targeting local governments as they do store large amounts of personal information. And you think about it, they know precisely where we live.
Well, they know absolutely. You can do absolutely everything about a person. You imagine a credit card information, your house information, your tax information, all kinds of things like that. And then they sell that. They sell that information. So they hack in, get all that information on everybody, and then they sell it. And sometimes it's to marketers, sometimes it's to more nefarious people, but they get it. And that's worth money.
Yeah, and okay, so it doesn't contain the risk of it containing credit card information, for example, from recent financial transactions is nil. But the point being is that it's still personal information that hackers shouldn't have access to.
Well, if they're hacking into the city and you happen to pay a bill with a credit card,
yeah, there's a possibility, but it's not like large tracts. If you hack into somewhere like Home Depot, there's large tracts of credit card information, right?
Yeah, but the problem here, I think, basically is they're hacking the information and selling it so they can sell it. I think that's the big thing. Don't ever expect it. You be like I've known people that will pay cash instead of credit card and do all this kind of stuff. And I said to them, you're not using a credit card, which is convenient and it's keeping you away from certain things. You can't rent a car, for example. You can't anything, can't make a reservation without a credit card. And I said, any kind of information they want on you, they can get it. Absolutely get it. I watched the guy. He was a private detective, and they gave the private detective a person. They told the private detective a person's name and asked for all the information he could come up with. So the private detective did not have to go and see the person, but within a week or so, he was able to describe the person as being X amount, about so tall, about so weight so much, and about his tastes and clothes and cars and everything else like that. All he did was seek out his credit information, which is quite often out there. Like if I wanted to rent a place, they would have to search my credit information.
Well, private investigators get access to certain things that most people can't.
Well, this was back in the 80s. So it was back in the 80s where they didn't have a whole lot of computer information that could be easily hacked. But he was a pro and he knew how to do it. And he got in the information. What he did was he found out that it was a young guy that had tastes that were beyond his means, and all like and the guy volunteered to be the
So a lot of this had been done on purpose, right?
Yeah. Well, so what they did was they took a guy, right, that was part of the
crew.
He was part of the news team or something like that. You know, and they just picked him at random, like and they got a pretty good PI and contacted him, and this is the person we need to know something about. And in a very short period of time, I found out a lot of stuff. I think I was a little bit embarrassed how good it was, because he described the guy as a young guy who had taste beyond his means. Like, he spent more money than he had. He got in debt a little bit. He was so tall. You could tell by the clothes that he wore and stuff that the things that he ordered and whatever, how tall he must be and what that kind of thing. So, and that was before computers and before, so you can imagine now,
But Karen says she hasn't had a credit card for over 40 years and she's still alive.
Yes, I saw her on TV yesterday. I saw her on TV last night. I was watching a lacrosse game at my buddy's house. He's got Kojiko, and there was Karen right after that, chatting away with a skinny guy that didn't like that felt that it was okay to shovel snow.
Right, and on the other side, Randy says, I use nothing but credit cards most of my life and never paid a nickel in interest.
Yeah, you can. You don't have to pay a nickel in interest at all, because if you pay your credit card on time, you don't. Yeah. You don't pay any interest. Me either. I don't pay any interest because I pay it on time.
And you're right.
Credit cards are there not for us who pay our bills. Credit cards love the people who don't want to pay their bills. That's where they make their big money, right? Yeah. They get 20% interest, and they know that a huge section of the population cannot control what they spend, and they will incur a debt.
Anyway, so the whole point about the Thorold cyber attack wasn't necessarily about credit cards per se, but it's about personal information that would have been leaked about people in living in Thorold.
Yeah. So anyway, I wouldn't get too excited. If anyone wants your information, they're going to get it. Easy. No problem. The real essential parts, your banking and your credit card information, all that, is usually protected pretty well. So I don't really worry about that. If they want to get into a computer, they're going to get into it. Basically, what they're doing when they hack information like that is sell it. They sell that information to people, I don't know, marketers or whoever else wants it, whatever they can do with it,
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, let me just, by the way, it was an incredibly slow news day yesterday, wasn't it?
Well,
I went looking for stories and I'm like throwing most of them out, and which is one reason why I came across this next story about There's a man who beat a 72-year-old amputee who's going to be sent, a Niagara man who's going to be sentenced this month.
Yeah, right in Buckley Towers there. That's one of our Kiwanis not-for-profits. And according to the article there, the man who's 72 years old is an amputee and he lives there, and that's probably why he's in the nonprofit. He had a son that's homeless. He let him in for the winter. The guy freaked out in a drug-induced freak out and beat his father and left him there. Like it was, the guy was on the, probably if the guy had got immediate care, he may have survived, but he was left until somebody else found him. I don't know, sometime later, a couple hours later, whatever. And he was taken to the hospital and didn't survive. So they've got his son, and they were going to give him second-degree murder, but they toned it down to manslaughter. And they say, okay, we recommend an 8-year sentence, and the Crown wants 12 years defense. How's that going to help anyone, right? If I was the Crown, I'd give him the full 12 years because he's a danger, obviously a danger to society. He's a homeless drug addict or prone to drug-induced violence. How are you going to keep society safe if you got a guy like that? Unless that guy dries up, and can be trusted, then what are you going to do with the guy?
I'd agree. He generally speaking, he needs the full 12 years. But of course, we don't know the details of the case.
Look, I know a guy that went to penitentiary for 9 years. He could have got out earlier if he asked for treatment, or if he accepted treatment, but he didn't want any treatment, so he had to do his full treatment. And now he's out, and he was a violent offender. But he was in penitentiary where they send the psychological cases, and this is probably where this guy's going to go. I recommend the full 12 years because he's 45 now. If he gets 12 years, he'll be 57 out, and he'll be less capable of beating people to death at 57.
Yeah. Well, and it's like most people find it horrific that you're actually going to be beating your father to death. It's even more horrific. And I don't know why they backed off of the murder charge. That kind of makes me angry, but still.
What's Rick say here? He says, how is this to give them more money?
Okay, I don't know.
Manslaughter is most 10 years. Yeah, well, they're asking for 12 according to the article. The Crown's asking for 12. So,
yeah, don't know why they backed down from the murder charge, but still, it's usually harder to prove a murder charge.
Yeah, well, they were going to do a second-degree murder charge, and then the guy said that he would, plead guilty to a manslaughter charge. So that's the way they went.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense now when you talk about it that way. Yeah, because in fact, actually, that's often the way with a lot of these things, that if he pleads guilty to a lesser crime, then they permit it. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you could be extremely violent offender, and in order for you to get less of a charge, you can save the Crown a lot of money by pleading guilty to a lesser charge when you really deserved to be, you really were. It really was murder in the second degree, but it's going to cost us a lot of money to put you away. So we'll give you a deal. You'll get less time. Well, how's that serving us? Really, like, how is it serving us when you get less time? When a violent offender like this gets less time because he wants to plead guilty to a lesser offense. I'm not so sure.
Here's the thing: is you're talking about he refused rehab. One of the things that he would potentially,
a friend of mine did. A friend of mine, not this guy. A guy I worked with, right? Went to penitentiary, and he refused rehab, and he had to do his full 9-year sentence. But if he had, but he could have reduced that. But in his mind, there was nothing wrong with him, the crime that he committed, and so now he's been back on the street for a long time, you know. But
okay,
you know,
well, you know, I don't, you know, rehab may or may not work in this particular case. We will see. All right.
Well, he might be able to get. There's no guarantee he can get away from drugs in prison. That's for sure. Depends on how much he wants to spend. Rehabilitation will be something. But the fact is, he's supposed to have mental illness as well.
Yeah.
So if he's a violent offender like that, and you want to let him out, like the defense wants him out in 6 years, like give him a 6-year sentence, which means he'd probably be out in 4. What good is that going to do anybody?
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to protect society.
All right. Okay. Turkey's leader gives revolvers to every NATO leader as a parting gift from the NATO summit in Turkey recently.
Yeah, it was just a real surprise. They're trying to figure out why Erdogan did that. They gave everybody that went there, including Carney, a .357 Magnum type gun. It's actually it's actually kind of a historic piece, like it's a legacy piece. It was something that Turkey made some time ago, but still produces. And because a lot of the NATO discussions had to do with
what he gave was a Gumuse 357 Magnum. It's a
it's a Turkish
rare 6-shooter produced by Turkish arms manufacturer MKE.
It's rare. I think that's the reason why I gave it. But some people think it's because a large part of what they were talking about in NATO was defensive stuff, coordinating in defense, coordinating in.
Well, they do give most of these kind of, when you have these kind of things like this, you know, summits of various kinds, there usually are parting gifts given.
Well, yeah, and you bring a gift. Now, Carney joked that his gift was kind of probably underappreciated, well, maybe because, or at least over not looking so good, because he brought a bucket of maple syrup, and Erdogan gives him a fancy 357 handgun.
Well, again, I think there's kind of a protocol about this, because you kind of, taking the maple syrup is kind of supposed to be endemic of Canada, right? It's about what things that Canada produces.
Yeah, but
in a way, it's a freebie gift that Carney didn't pay a penny for. But then again, probably Erdogan didn't pay a penny for that either.
The gun was given with live ammunition, which I'd hate to see one of these things kind of stolen and used in a crime or something. But it is a vintage revolver, and it says here that Erdogan wanted to showcase Turkey's defense industry, which has become a key export and foreign policy tool.
Yeah.
So there you have it. And images shared by the Office of Lithuanian President. So the picture you got here is from the Lithuanian president. It's Gumese 357 Magnum, a rare 6-shooter produced by Turkish arms maker MKE in the 1990s.
Yeah. Yeah, and okay, so and again, this sort of thing is typical of these types of these types of meetings. You've got to go with something, you come back with something, right?
Yeah, in this particular case, it was very symbolic about Turkey's defense
Yeah,
industries, right?
yeah, of course,
And
and it's a defense meeting anyway, so it's appropriate.
yeah, so Kearney joked here. He says, "It struck me that my gift of maple syrup kind of undermatched the Turkish present." So, yeah,
Mm.
basically, here's a jar of maple syrup. Oh, thank you for that fancy handgun. The rare fancy handgun. It's probably worth a couple $1,000.
Yeah. But again,
And here's $10 worth of maple syrup.
probably more than $10 worth. But yes, I get the point. I get the point. Anyway, interesting, right? Anything else about that?
No, that's just pretty interesting how things are going there with the Turkish. We find that Israel's beating their chests, telling the world, and has been leading up to this now when they kind of feel that maybe Iran is on its back heels, they've found another enemy, and their enemy is Turkey. And we find that Turkey and Israel started out pretty well, but Turkey and Israel have slowly become more and more adversarial. And Turkey tried to take a ship full of supplies to Gaza. This was before the Gaza war.
Yeah.
And it was attacked by Israeli commandos, and they killed some people on the ship. So Turkey and Israel have been they're raising their hackles, and then what you have to the shock of the Israelis, you've got Trump going into talking to Erdogan, telling everybody he's a good buddy of Erdogan's, which he does all the time anyway, whether it's whoever it is, and suggest that the Syrians take care of Hezbollah, not the Israelis, and stroking Turkey rather than Israel. And Israel is declaiming that Turkey is going to be the next enemy in the region for NATO and not for NATO, but for them. Yeah. And this comes at a time when the Israeli support within the United States is waning pretty badly at this particular time. So I think what Trump has done is read the tarot cards. And he says, I got to dump Israel and make friends with Turkey.
Okay.
Not completely dump Israel, can't do that, but he can sort of slowly start moving that way.
Okay. So the Trump government deportation policy actually has changed things for Canada. And one of these news agencies has looked into it.
Yes. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it's inevitable that, you see, if you've got a situation whereby you're deporting people, people are going to run for the closest country they can get to, right? And now, of course, when they cross the Canadian border, I'm a refugee.
Yeah.
That's my first thought, because they're covered under the Safe Third Country Agreement, and where the closest border there is.
Well, see, they gave it away here. Like, of course, the United States is going to push out a lot of illegals. They want to get rid of 1 million a year. Plus, they've reduced the protections of other residents that were here supposedly temporarily for their own safety. Now, the United States is that as a country. So any immigrant or refugee that came to the United States to seek refugee status, they're the first country they went to. And that means they are not entitled to come into Canada and do the same thing. If they came to the U.S. and were refused, then they can't come into Canada and try again. Except if the immigration feels, unless they start to claim that they're afraid, they're in danger if they go back to their place of origin. Now, during this last year, I met some Kenyans and stuff like that, and that was their call. oh, it can't go back to Kenya. It's too dangerous to go back there. Right. It's too dangerous for us to go back there.
Yeah.
Right. And it's dangerous for us to go back there. Like, we can't go back there. We're in danger. I'm thinking, Kenya? You're going to be in danger in Kenya?
Yeah.
You know?
Of
course, they found out that sweet spot. You know, what do you claim? And we talked about this before when all the immigrants or the illegals were on the U.S. border during Biden's issue. They had 4 different stories that the people smugglers would give them. Yeah. 4 different stories, and they were all pretty much parroted, right? Each of the 4 stories was exactly the same as everybody who chose a particular story. One of the 4 was exactly the same as the, same dialogue, same everything, right?
Yeah.
And so in this article, it says, well, we can turn them all back, except if they claim that they're going to be in danger if they go back to their own country, which means that's exactly what they're going to do when they come to
You're right, because how do you say that about somewhere like Kenya, right?
Yeah, well, of course, they've got problems in Kenya, just like here in Canada. Absolutely. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, absolutely. But there's no death camps in Kenya. There's no, in fact, my son lives out there, and he's perfectly fine where he is. And, there's not anything to really show that there's any reason to be afraid of the Kenyan government right now. There's been times in the past when yes, that has been a problem, but not today.
Yeah. So, well, you can see that there's going to be a number of people from Haiti that's going to hit the Canadian border, and they're going to say, "Well, we're afraid to go back to Haiti." Well, that could be legitimate because Haiti's run by gangs right now.
But it has to be looked at on a case-by-case basis.
Well, that's what I mean. It's going to tie things up. They say that there's going to be there's not going to be a wave of migrants coming to the border as we expect as the crackdown happens in the United States. They want to get in the United States. They want to get rid of 1 million people a year. Plus, they're reducing or taking away the protections of others that come in under different means.
Yeah.
Like one of the ones with the Haitians. So that means potentially there could be like 1 million people come to the Canadian border every year trying to get in. But when it was at its worst, it was 165 a day came into Canada seeking refugee status. Now it's about 13 a day, they say. And they don't expect it to get that much bigger if the Canadian immigration does what they're supposed to do, which means they have to turn them back.
Yeah.
The United States was the first free state that you came into, first free country. That means there is the place that you have to apply for refugee status, and you don't do it here. And if you've done it in the States and they reject you, we're not. You can't. But
again, the claim now is that they're refugees out of the United States because at one point they had status. Many of these people.
That's not going to work for them at all.
Had status in the U.S., right?
No, that's not going to work for them because it's still the first country, first safe country, right? And if they're not accepted as refugees there, they shouldn't be accepted here. In fact, they shouldn't even be allowed to cross the border. I mean, according to the rules, according to the rules that they are, and that was one of the reasons why they were getting Roxham Road people were getting across because the rules said that you had to come across ports of entry. Well, they came across different ports of entry that weren't legal ports of entry, like Roxham Road and Emerson, Manitoba, and that was a legal walk around. If they went to the border, come across the Peace Bridge, the immigration department could send them back. But if they come across Roxham Road, that was a glitch in the legal system. I don't know why. but it was. So we got like 50, 60,000 people, Roxham Road. And who was sending them here? It was the sanctuary city of New York City.
Yeah.
They were putting them on a bus saying, you know where you want to go? You want to go up to this place called Roxham Road and walk into Canada because, you know, it's really nice up there and they're really nice and good to immigrants or refugees. This is where you want to go. And of course that didn't go over too well up here.
No, really. And honestly, like, we certainly couldn't handle 1 million a year.
I don't think we could handle 165 a day like it was at its worst.
Yeah.
But everybody who's going to hit that border is going to have that same story, because it says clearly here in the article, the only thing they will consider is people that would be in danger if they were sent back to their country.
Yeah.
Who are afraid to go back. So guess what? Everybody and their brother's going to be afraid to go back to their country of origin. Everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can't go back. I'll get killed. I'll get beat up. Whatever. You know.
Yeah. So yeah, and there's some of those. You know, some you can believe, and others are just not believable.
Sure. Some for sure. Like if you could prove that, you know, you gang leaders in Honduras were killing your family and you had to leave, yeah, you can. And, you know, something like that. But of course, then everybody can use that story.
Yeah,
I told a story about a couple of Mexicans that came into Canada and claimed to be Guatemalans and got away with it. They told me so. The guy, a couple of laborers where I worked with, they figured, how do I get into Canada, right? So they figured the states would be too tough or whatever. I don't know what reason. So they came into Canada and claimed to be Guatemalans, and it worked for them. And they got protected status, and they became asylum seekers, and they got in, they got jobs and everything. And then every time they flew back to Mexico to visit their family, the immigration guys would say to them, "How the hell did you get this passport? Canadian passport? How the hell?" And they would say, "I'm a Guatemalan, man." Just to dig it in, right?
Yeah. Okay. Right. So, any comments on that one? Only the one comment. Gas to go up to 165 soon. It was 165 yesterday, Rick, on the lake.
Yeah. So because they're shooting again.
Yeah.
And this is the Strait of Hormuz that the mightiest nation of all time cannot open up. And it was open before the war. Everything was fine before the war, and they can't open it up. And they can't do anything, even when they march down the street with big signs, "We will kill Trump. We will kill Trump." And that's just making Trump go flip out of his mind.
Yeah.
But anyway, look, that Strait of Hormuz, which is happily opened the whole time until this dumbass war that Netanyahu forced or tricked Trump into, and that's still going on. And every time they attack, they've attacked. They hit 90 targets or something in Iran. There's another couple of $1 billion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so it's a very expensive. It's a very expensive war they're having there, and they still haven't settled anything. And part of the reason is Iran says you can't control your guy Netanyahu. Part of the peace deal is for the Israeli troops to stop attacking southern Lebanon.
Yeah.
And so until they go and get out of there, you know, and they agreed to that. So they wrote in the memorandum of understanding, yeah, that's going to happen. We're going to stop Israel from doing that. But they can't stop Israel because Israel says, "Heck with you," right?
Yeah.
Just give me more bombs, and there's nothing you can do about it. I asked for more bombs, you got to give them to me, because other than that, I'll use the Israeli lobby against you.
Yeah, and aside from anything else, the moment that war in southern Lebanon stops, essentially Netanyahu has to go to the polls.
Yeah, that's another thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, good luck, Donald Jesus Trump. It's going to take a miracle for you to. And of course, there's lots of push now. There's the hawks in the U.S. want an invasion. They want them to invade. They want them to take over the Straits of Hormuz and invade. You know how blood and money that's going to cost.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
even
yeah.
if you could do it without so too many people getting killed, like the U.S. debt is extraordinary. Canadian debt is bad, but U.S. debt is insanely bad. So,
yeah. Well, the other thing about this is that you know, you fly in. They've already bombed Tehran, but the military bases on the Straits of Hormuz are 1,000 kilometers from Tehran. They clearly have got a working, you know, armed situation in the Iranian parts of Straits of Hormuz, and a ground attack is going to be very. You know, I think the Iranians are prepared.
well, yeah, the U.S. only has 50,000 troops in the area. What are they going to do with them?
Yeah, exactly. You know, the Iranians are prepared for the ground attack. They have been prepared for years.
Well, yeah, and you can see how their command structure has been sustained. I mean, they killed 40, 50 of the leading leaders of Iran, and the next year down, they claim to have taken out the first layer, the second layer, and part of the third layer of the leadership. Yeah. And guess what? It just gets reborn, doesn't it?
Yeah. They've stepped in, they've got new leaders, they've just taken over and continued on where the old leaders had left off.
So they've made absolutely no progress. Now, if Trump wants to go and blow up bridges and water salination plants, he could do that. But guess who's going to do exactly the same to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE? Who's going to do that to them? Is Iran's going to do that. So whatever so it's going to cripple the economy no matter what. The idea here is to open the Straits of Hormuz without crippling the world economy. I mean, the world economy has sustained itself very well at this particular time, but the strategic resources of oil are being reduced rapidly, and they need to refill like big salt caverns in I think it's Louisiana, but big salt caverns where the U.S. puts their strategic reserves of oil. They're running out, and they can't let those salt mines, salt caves, get any emptier, because if they do, they'll collapse. You know, and you don't want that. So they have to keep them full of like at least a certain amount of oil. And right now those reserves are being depleted rather rapidly. So and that's going on all over the world too. All right. So so we find a number of things that will motivate the United States to get to a deal. The problem is the Iranians are insisting on the conditions of the MOU, which includes Lebanon. And when you think of the brainiacs like Kushner and Welkoff, whatever his name is, who signed on to stuff like this, and then Vance a little later coming out, I think there's a mistake here. We didn't really mean that Lebanon was included, but it was clearly written in there, and they're stuck with it. Unless Trump can rein in Netanyahu, this is going to go on and on and on. So we'll see. But clearly, both sides have reason to end it. If Iran can start selling its oil, like it is being put back on the sanction list, but if they can sell their oil without sanctions and that kind of thing, it might be very much worth it for them to make some sort of deal. But they are not going to give up control of Hormuz. That is absolutely, they don't need an atomic bomb if they can squeeze off Hormuz.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So moving on. There's going to be 7 new federal seats up for grabs soon, as by-elections are going to start to be announced fairly soon. But apparently, NDP leader Harvey Lewis won't be trying for any of them.
Well, I think that's pretty clear why, because he's not going to. What Rick said, he says the U.S. is not a recession. Canada is. Yeah. Well,
I disagree.
Yeah. Well, Canada is borderline recession for sure. A recession you need two. You need negative growth, two quarters of negative growth. I don't think we've qualified legally, but yeah, it's not. Our economy is not doing that well. And the U.S. economy is still being driven fairly decently, and that was mainly because of investments. Like the stock market looks good because that's mainly because of investments in AI and data centers and chips and all that kind of stuff. But the average person isn't doing that well in the United States. So on the surface, the United States the economy looks good, but the economy is good for people who've got money. Not for the average guy, not for the average plumber, millwright like I was, whoever else, that's not looking that rosy. The farmers are hurting very bad, but the wealthy people are doing fine. So if you were to average it all, you'd say, okay, well, the American economy is doing well. But the American economy is doing well for those people who've got money. That's who the American economy is doing well. Up here, it's kind of a little bit more shared out. All right. And the American economy has the ability to bounce back because of its huge amount of resources. And so that is an advantage the United States has, and the fact that the world has to use its currency as for oil and other things of that kind. So that also helps the United States very much. It shelters it much more than other countries can be sheltered.
Yeah.
But for the average American, things are not doing well. I mean, they can play the game and they can say on your economy report, sure, I agree with you. The American economy is not doing that bad, but the average person in that economy is not all doing that all great. It's the wealthy. The wealthy people are doing pretty good. Excuse me, how many?
Too many
trillions of dollars are they in debt? The U.S. is broke and desperate. So right now they're $32 trillion in debt, and that's growing. The tariff thing hasn't filled up the tariff tax on the people of the United States has not filled up the coffers as they thought it might. And those tax reliefs they gave to the rich, particularly the rich, everybody though, but particularly the rich, will have to be reversed because the United States is going broke in an extremely fast rate. And these expensive wars they get involved in, and their support, the expensive support of Israel, expensive wars, that's not looking good. I mean, that's a time bomb.
All right. Moving back to our so 7 federal MPs or seats will be up for grabs fairly soon because there's a whole raft of by-elections coming, probably all coming on the same day. But according to the NDP spokesman, Harvey Lewis, his party only currently holds 5 federal seats, plans to spend his time focused on rebuilding the party rather than trying to expand the New Democrats' foothold in Parliament Hill.
Yeah, so Abby Lewis is not going to try for any of these seats that are going to be opened up this year. There's 7 of them. One we talked about the other day is the conservative in Quebec who is being appointed to the Senate. That opened up that seat. Yeah. And according to the article we read, it may be a maneuver by Carney to open that seat up to make it a liberal-friendly seat, another seat in his caucus, basically. But
because the Liberals were second in that riding at the last election. Yeah.
So here we have
that possibility when you've got that kind of mix, right? And in a way, I get why Harvey Lewis is working on rebuilding the NDP, because the NDP, even if he were to get an extra seat, wouldn't make a damn bit of difference, would it?
No, it wouldn't. But on the other hand, he is not electable. I think he's tried before, and he's going to have there. He cannot go and be elected. He's not going to try for any of these by-elections because he will lose. He will lose in every one of them, even the one that there was an NDP was stepping down. I'm pretty sure he has to have a super safe seat for him. It'll wait till election time, and they're going to try to find a super safe seat for him so that he can get into Parliament. None of these are super safe, and that's why he won't go in them.
Yeah, he tried in West Vancouver in 21 and lost there, and then in Vancouver Centre in 25, and he was placed third on both of those occasions. So he's actually sat in by-elections before and not succeeded.
Yeah, so there is good reason why he's not going to spend any resources trying to get elected in places where he doesn't have a very good chance of getting in. When the major election comes, the next major election, they're going to have to pick him a seat, right? Pick him the safest seat possible, if there is such a thing, because he only got 6 or 7 left in the House of Commons now. Well, and so
okay, so we talked about the Conservative MP in Chicoutimi Leford in Quebec.
Chicoutimi.
Thank you.
Chicoutimi.
And there's Beaches East York, which is held by Liberal. We've got North Vancouver, which is an ex-Liberal minister, and I would have said that was probably the best shot that they've got, if anything. And then Saint Hyacinthe Bagot in Acton in Quebec, which is a Bloc Québécois seat. In a way, I get where he's saying, because he's got very little chance of actually getting elected in any of those seats.
Well, that's exactly why. I mean, they write the article as, oh, here's an opportunity for Avi Lewis to get a seat. How come he's not taking it? Well, the reason why he's not taking it, obviously, is because he's not going to win.
Well, he's being more sensible in this regard. You're right that they will push he will at the next election take a safe NDP seat, if there is any such thing, and stand in there, replace the current incumbent.
Exactly what I said.
Yeah, and I don't know that there are any safe NDP seats anymore, because a couple of the predictions, and I'm not talking here Conservative commentators, there's a couple of predictions that have been that I've seen saying that the NDP could walk away with 0 seats at the next Parliament.
Could be. That's very possible.
Right. Because why would I vote for them? A lot of people are saying, why would I vote for them when they can give me no change? I better.
Well, this is the legacy of Jagmeet Singh and the party that he ran. He had a respectable 20 seats or something in Parliament, 20 to 25
it's no longer the party of Jack Layton.
Well, it's not only that. Jagmeet Singh was a pretty nice guy, easygoing guy, a pretty good leader, person to person. But he hitched his wagon to Trudeau. They were so afraid that the Conservatives were going to get elected that they decimated their own party. They supported Justin Trudeau's minority government and everything, which made them a nondescript party, meaning they had no chops of their own. They were just following along. They had the pictures in the political cartoons of Justin, golfing, and Jagmeet Singh being his caddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
So
when you've got
there'd be a
when you've
political
got that
cartoon
kind of,
where yeah.
And in our parliament, we don't deal with alliances per such. We look at individual parties. You know, there are plenty of nations actually out there whereby you don't vote for an individual party, you vote for an alliance.
So
that's not the
what
Canada.
Jagmeet Singh did, he came out and he says he is going to support the Liberal Party because they were afraid of the Conservatives getting any kind of power. But what he should have done is he said, we're going to look at these things point by point, point by point, to make sure, and make it everyone know that they're going to support the Liberals, but not actually give fealty to the Liberals. And that's what they did. No matter what the Liberals do, we're going to support it. It wasn't until the end there where Jagmeet Singh started to separate themselves from the Liberals, but by that time it was too late.
Yeah. And in reality, what he should have done at that point is, okay, there's a Liberal bill to do whatever, and we will support the Liberals provided they put A, B, and C from the NDP policy, not all of the NDP policy, but a couple of key points from the NDP policy. If they put these into the bill, we'll support it.
Well, that's what they did. They got dental. They got a few other things from the Liberals, so they got something by being the Liberal lackeys. But the fact of the matter is, for the average voter, what's the point of voting for NDP if they're just going to do what the Liberals do anyway?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And and that's a game where we sit right now. The current political stance in Canada is Liberal versus Conservative, isn't it?
Right now, yeah. And as a matter of fact, the Liberals have got the headwinds going, the tailwinds on their side.
Yeah.
And the Conservatives are still fighting a bit of a headwind. I don't know what the argument's going on here. London, England came same way. We follow those two rabbit holes. We did not learn from their days. Are you going to be on Paul's show on Monday, Wills? Yes, I am. And we're going to be broadcasting it from his backyard. Yeah. So 4680Q, the studio on Chrysler, the 4680Q started its life on Queen Street. That's where the Q, 4680Q, started at 4680 Queen Street. Then it moved to Chrysler. Still a nice little place there. Nice little studio overlooking the sort of overlooking the street there. But now they put it, Pat Borders, who owned it, put it in a little hotel room on the Regency. And it's pretty seedy little hotel room, according to Paul. And he's not going to do any more broadcasts from 4680Q, I guess. And now he's just going to broadcast from his backyard.
Okay. So he's going the same way as we've gone. Left the station.
Yeah, basically.
I was having a conversation with Paul about that, and he was saying that the new owner is basically saying, no, this is a rock radio station, or it's a music only station. And and he's more or less have taken the stance that there's no room for non-music items like Paul's show, which I think is a poor thing. We were talking about this at quite a lot of length, a few weeks back. So I'm not surprised. We'll work it from there.
Well, yeah, you could just they'll just go off of just collect a rotation of tunes, throw them on, and throw some advertising in the meantime. I guess that's the easiest way to go.
Yeah. Exactly. That's probably how they're going to be doing it. And again, we lose personality by missing people like Paul's show.
Yeah, well, we still got Paul's show though. Like,
yeah, I know.
It's not on the radio, and I'm not so sure how many people listen to the radio, except for I. Wilkins News. He listened to it on the radio. But I would always, when I do Paul's show, I listen to it on YouTube later.
Oh, yeah. No, that's where I got. You see, I haven't even looked at 4680q.ca anymore. I've gone to YouTube. I think I've subscribed to YouTube, to Paul's show on YouTube. Pretty sure I have.
Yeah, I'd have to.
Yeah. Because I've seen it so many times that I'm got to have.
Yeah. Sometimes his show, I think of it as Fox North sometimes when he's talking about his hero, Donald Jesus Trump, the man with the gold statue, and the man with his face on the passport, the man with the face on the money. Oh God.
All right.
Anyway,
okay. I think we've got to call it quits at the moment.
Yep, and I will talk about Gaza as I always talk about Gaza. It's still a nightmare there. It's going to continue to be a nightmare. Israel is moving into southern Lebanon. Already the settlers are starting to barge in there. The Syrians are still out of the question right now. They have reduced they've got rid of the influence of Iran in Syria right now, which is a good thing. But they still are fighting ISIS there. So they're not going to really be able to turn much of their attention onto Hezbollah as Donald Trump wants. But the very fact that he has asked Jelani to go or mentioned that Jelani might be able to take care of Hezbollah, especially when Netanyahu is expanding and wants to continue to expand inside of Lebanon. That's a thing. So Trump might be crazy, but he sure is cunning. The way he's balancing his allies in the Middle East right now. He's brought in Jelani, talked about him, talked about Erdogan, sort of isolating Israel. Israel's now looking for new allies. Basically, it's gone off to India to see if it can make deals with them. The bottom line, though, is the brutality in which the Israeli people, the Israeli army and Israeli government is doing to 7 million Palestinians is shameful and will continue to be shameful because we permit it. Without further ado, I bid you adieu.